All right. Well, like I said, I'm Sam Harrell. I work in the information office. I've got several information officers that work for me. We're producing the update and that morning briefing video. We manage we call it a trap line where we go out and spread information about. Is this PA system working over there, Joan?
Yes.
All right.
You want it up?
I don't know. It's people in the back. I talk rather loud. It's for these other folks that are a little more soft-spoken here for the microphone. So we have a few presenters here tonight that's going to tell you what's going on with the fire and what's happening. And once everybody has their say, we'll take questions from y'all. I'll stay here and answer all the questions until you're done. Those that I can't answer, I'll certainly find out what the answer is and get back with you so that we can figure this out, all right? But before I get to our itinerary, there's several other subject matter experts here in the crowd, and I just want to recognize them that they are here. Let's see, Matt Stevens, he's with the Alaska Division of Forestry. He's our Fairbanks Delta area forester. He's over here back waving at you. Also with the state, Alaska State Trooper Lieutenant Mike Roberts. Well, yeah.
We don't see that often.
We think that's the guy right there. Bureau of Land Management, here out of the Eastern Area Field Office, we have the Assistant Field Manager, John Haddix, back there. Also from that same BLM office is Craig McKay. He's their Public Affairs Specialist. Their interest here would be the, right here in your backyard, the White Mountains Recreation Area. They have other responsibilities here in the Eastern area, but you're most interested in this one. Let's see, with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we have the Fairbanks Superintendent, Leslie DeWild here. Back here in the back, Leslie. Also with her is the BIA's Fire Management Officer, Tom St. Clair. Let's see, and also let's see from the UAF Institute of Arctic Biology, Jamie Hollingsworth. Jamie back there in the back also. Jamie's the site manager for the Caribou Poker Creeks Research Watershed. You guys have a really nice backyard, I want to say. Also from the Steese area, Steese Volunteer Fire Department, Chief Scott Leonard. Learned. I'll learn that yet tonight. All right. They're structure protection, but not up this far. For up here, they're emergency services response, and then also motor vehicle accidents out on the highway. They'll respond to that. So mainly emergency services up here for Steese. All right, and I'm going to present tonight. I have Ed Sanford here. He's the incident commander with the Alaska's Black Team, the incident management team. Our incident meteorologist is Joel Curtis. We'll hear from our fire behavior analyst, Graham Worley Hood. Our operations chief is here from the line. I saw that he's here. Dustin Wessel. And State of Alaska Division Forestry, Jeremy Dowse. He's here. He'll speak to us. Also from the Emergency Services Office in Fairbanks North Star Borough, Brad Polson will be here. So let's get underway. I'll get Ed up here and we'll go and we'll get going through this here.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening, folks. My name is Ed Sanford. I'm the incident commander for the Alaska IMT. Before I tell you about our team, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been with this team for quite a while, and I know your neighborhood. The reason I say I know your neighborhood, on the 04 fire, Boundary Fire, I was up here, top of that hill, putting those dozer lines in. Also, fuel mitigation projects around this community. I've helped folks with state forestry lay these out through WUI grants to take care of some fuel mitigations for large fires that are out there. And we'll talk more about that throughout this evening, and we'll do breakouts and questions. So let me tell you about the incident management team. So subject matter experts that come in, operations, logistics, finance, aviation groups, public information, logistics, and we travel all over the nation when we have disasters. Last year we were on Issam Creek Fire up in the Fort Yukon area, and then when we're done with Alaska, we go down to the lower 48. And Fairbanks Forestry did a really good job. When I say initial attack, first responders, right? You saw probably the helicopters coming in, you saw the retardant planes, you saw some smoke jumpers come in, and they were actively working this fire. We also know this is big fire country, right? One thing when I got here and I was doing the in-briefing, when I was done, I got up there and did some closeout. I was like, these people up here have seen fire before. They call in fires all the time for Fairbanks area. And they've been up here and seen big fires in their backyard, so we definitely understand that. So when we got here, got ordered up, we got an in-briefing in from our agencies and their directions from the state of Alaska, the BLM, and the BIA, and they give us objectives, and then we go out and do course of actions. We work with the public, we're going to inform you guys of what's going on out there. We come up with strategy and tactics and get folks out there to manage the incident. So we came in on Friday, or Thursday, in-briefed, took over the Friday at 0800 from Zane Brown. I'm not sure, you might have been running up and down the road, but Zane Brown was the IC3 when we came in. I mean, we took the fire over. 10 Middle School is ICP. Down the road, you've been driving by every day, that's our heli base, supplies, everything is going flying up the hill into spike camps. These are the old boundary dozer line off of Haystack Lookout where the rocks is. And a lot of folks are out there. The operations is going to give you a briefing of like the current status and where we're at, but a lot of good work been done from the IA, in addition for the 5 days we've been here. So another thing I want you guys to start thinking about too, we have also the emergency service folks here, so when they come up to talk or we do breakouts, we can inform you on Firewise, fuels projects within your community. And then we talk about, emergency plans, right? When we talk about emergency plans, I'm talking about like evacuations and how you'd be notified. Because I was here in 04. I was standing right down there in 04 when there was a different team managing this, and I remember everybody coming down this road. And it was not a pretty sight, and it wasn't a good plan. And through the last couple of days, working with the Fairbanks North Star Borough Emergency Service folks, our team, we came up with a good plan to make sure if there was something that happened out there, it was an orderly fashion to come down the hill. That's why we have state troopers here, like I said, emergency services, East Fire Department, so it's well organized if that's the case. But right now we're looking pretty good. So I want to turn it over to Operator, who's the next?
Let's go to Joel for coming weather. Joel?
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Joel Curtis. I'm with the National Weather Service, and my day job title is Emergency Response Specialist, and then I moonlight as what we call an incident meteorologist. And those are specially trained meteorologists that come out on wildland fires, generally the bigger incidents, and we are specially trained to forecast the weather in detailed terrain and fire weather conditions. So we are the ones that accompany teams like the Type 2 team I'm with today. So I've been in the National Weather Service for 38 years. I have been forecasting in Alaska for 31. I've been stationed at all of the places in Alaska that you can be stationed, with the exception of Fairbanks. But I've had a number of fires up here, up country, and so I'm really used to the weather that's up here too. Again, I'm backed up by a tremendous team in the National Weather Service. So we have the Fairbanks Forecast Office. We have the Alaska Region Headquarters, which has specialists that are backing us up. We also have the, there goes my forecast. We also have meteorologists at a center by the Alaska Fire Service that do broad-scale forecasts for the state and track all of the climate of the fires too. So there's a lot of historical record, and you can learn a whole lot from those. And so now for my forecast, if they stay up. Folks, I spend a few hours every day doing this particular product. What it is a very simplistic presentation of the whole week, next week, for the specific spot of the fire. And I'm only able to put just a couple of numbers in these squares, but they have meaning when it comes to conditions favoring fire behavior. So those conditions, as you see in red, are favoring extreme fire behavior. In yellow, we have high fire behavior and moderate fire behavior in green. So looking ahead to tomorrow, I'm only thinking that it's going to be mostly sunny, essentially, with only 10% of significant clouds, a maximum temperature of 76 degrees, our 20-foot wind roughly about 10 miles per hour all day long, and the primary wind direction will be out of the southeast, maximum humidity 30%, relative humidity recovery at night. That's very, very important to know how moist it gets back at night when the sun angle is very, very low and the moisture is able to condense a little bit. And then finally, also the thunderstorm chances. And as you can see in this chart, there are thunderstorm chances every single day. Duh. Yeah, this is Central Alaska, and really, we there's always a chance, and particularly at this time of year, of a risk of thunderstorms. The other line that you see here is the chance of wetting rain. Now that's not 1/100th of an inch that may start to form a puddle on hard surfaces. That's 1/10th of an inch. So it's significant. It has to get into the vegetation. So fire people are really interested in the chance of wetting rain. And as you can see, as we go along in the week, it's relatively low and it ramps up to Monday and Tuesday. And 40% chance is a pretty strong bet of getting 1/10th of an inch, as opposed to the probability of precipitation that you normally hear in your forecast, which means 1/100th of an inch. So we're really counting on wetting rain. So here's our trend. I've got more clouds moving in through the week. I have the peak of temperatures tomorrow, and then slowly ramping down as the week goes along. The one wild card, and it's really, really tough to forecast, but we can get this right in the terrain, is the wind. Thursday is going to be the windiest day, followed by Monday, much later in our outlook of 7 days. 15 to gusts to 25 is a significant wind on a fire. So we really wanted to highlight this change in the wind forecast that I worked up today. Also, the predominant direction will be southwest. So that push of that wind is actually pretty favorable to the community here. So even though it's going to be windy, at least we have that direction. We do have one southeasterly on Sunday, but note how much lighter the wind is. And then a whole other front is coming down from the northwest with these two winds. So our minimum humidity, pretty doggone dry for the first 4 days, and then it starts to ramp up. So we're going to get more humid. Also, our recoveries really ramp up toward the end of the week. Again, the chance of thunderstorms all the way through, and the chance of wetting rain increasing. So that's my forecast for the week for the fire, and there are a lot of people really, really dependent on this, and I'm going to definitely be around for questions. So if you have questions about meteorology or how we do the forecast, or what might the impacts of these numbers be, I'll be here for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Next up, fire behavior. So we understand now what the weather is going to be. How's that going to affect how things burn? And for that, we have our fire behavior analyst. I got to work on these words. Graham, tell them what it is you do.
Hi everyone, my name is Graham Worley Hood, and I'm working here on the fire as a fire behavior analyst. And And what I do on the fire is we look at the fuels around the fire, we look at the weather forecasts, and we get a sense for how the weather is affecting the fuels and how receptive the fuels will be to burning and fire behavior. And we make predictions to the future based on that information that we gather and the information we get from the fire. So as far as the haystack fire, we received quite a bit of rain over the last several days, and that's put a damper on fire behavior, which has allowed the crews to make good progress around the perimeter, securing the perimeter of the fire. Despite that rain, we're still seeing areas of smoldering and creeping in the interior of the fire that are away from the perimeter, but that have persisted through that rain event. But they're not a major threat because the crews have essentially isolated those areas of heat from unburned fuels around the fire's edge, or unburned vegetation around the perimeter of the fire. With the weather conditions forecasted, there's potential for active fire behavior based on the temperatures, the warming trends, the drying trend, and the winds. However, you need unburned fuel adjacent to heat sources for the weather to be a factor in fire behavior. And right now, the way that the work that the crews have done, isolating those heat sources away from unburned fuels, we're just not seeing the weather as a major threat to this fire as it is. So with the work the crews have done, we feel like we're in a good place to be able to hold the fire through the upcoming weather that's forecasted. And I will also be around to discuss any specific questions you guys have with fuels or fire behavior with the haystack fire. And I'll turn it over to Dustin.
All right, thank you, Graham. All right, Operations Chief Dustin Wessel.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name's Dustin Wessel, Operations with the Black Team. So we decided when we got here, we took the information that Graham provided and the information that Joel provided, and we decided to go direct on the fire. The meaning of going direct is that we're going to try to put hand line, dozer line, or cold trail the fire all the way around the edge of it. So we'll start off over in Division Alpha and the progress that we've made there. We were able to get dozer line all the way down to Caribou Creek and wrapped it all the way around down on this finger. The crews have made excellent progress. One of the main objectives obviously was keeping the fire from moving west. So the last 4 days, this area has been a major priority for the crews to get in. They're currently about 200 feet in, right through here. The vegetation kind of changed, got a little bit thicker as we moved down drainage. As Graham said, it's burning deeper down there and harder to put out. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get all this buttoned up. And once we feel like this is secure, we're going to keep moving around the fire's edge, going direct, cold trailing, or putting in hand line until we feel like we got it secured. You'll see the black line on the map. This means containment. It's not controlled, contained. It feels like we're comfortable with it and it's not going to get out. As the days go on and the team stays here longer, if we feel like we can control it, we'll look at that option down the road. But that could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks away from now. So I did mention dozer line, and with the understanding that the trail going out to the dozer is very important to the community. So we tried to walk the dozers in on the north side of that trail, not to damage that the best we could. So we've had some people doing assessments out there, and the trail hasn't been harmed yet. So feeling pretty comfortable about that. You've also seen a lot of engines going up and down the road, stopping by your houses. They're doing assessments on your houses in case that fire did decide to move west. They know what kind of engines, hoses, pumps, what they're going to need to set up around your house to hopefully save it the best we can. So that being done, and then the road is another one of our priorities. We've had a lot of equipment going up and down the road. It's obviously done damage, and we're working with the loafer right now on getting a grader and a roller up here to take care of the road to get it back to its state that it was before we got here too.
It's much better now.
So you'll see the grader hopefully here within the next few days. We got all the heavy equipment off the hill, so we don't have to worry about the heavy equipment damaging the road anymore. So we've currently got 6 crews on the fire with another one that just showed up today, a Type 1 crew. We'll get to getting them flown in. That was one of the struggles with this fire that we did face. It is remote, so we've been using the helicopters to fly everything in. Are there any questions? Well, I guess we'll have a breakout afterwards. Ed?
Yep, we'll take questions after. Jeremy, why don't you, if you're done, I don't want to drum you off the stage here. Book him right out of here. Division of Forestry.
Yeah, good evening. My name is Jeremy Dowse. I'm the Northern Region Forester for the Division of Forestry. I want to start by thanking the firefighters, both the initial attack firefighters, the local staff for Fairbanks area, and all the fire. We still have a lot of firefighters up on the line right now, and that's pretty grueling work what they do. And you know they're working diligently to try to contain this thing and make sure it's not a problem in the future. So I just want to say thanks to all of them, and also thanks to you guys. You guys between 2004 and this, and just other incidents around Fairbanks. I mean, you know, you guys, we have all lived it, and you're a resilient group. You know, this is a living with wildfire kind of environment, and that's what interior Alaska is. It's a boreal forest, and it evolved with fire. So appreciate it. So what my job is to work with the incident management team to support them, make sure that they get what they need from the area, from the division. I can't emphasize this enough. The team these incident management teams, they're a national resource. So like Ed and his team, they'll go down later in the year. They'll go down to California or somewhere in the West, and they'll manage a fire down there. So in Alaska, we have 2 Type 2 teams that are like Ed's, and I feel like we got the home team because this is a group that's really, like, a lot of these folks are from Fairbanks. They were, you know, completely engaged in this fire. They were really interested in obviously in the outcome of it, and but they know this country and they know how fire behaves around here. So I think we got the best team that we could, and we were lucky to get Ed's team on this fire. So I do want to say that, like, at this point, Ed is and his team, they're out there, they're mopping up, they're trying to contain this thing, and at some point it will be that the team leaves and it gets turned back to the local area, and that would be Matt Stevens, the area forester back there, and his staff that will take it back over. So there will be a lot less presence of firefighters out here, but just know that they're not gone. They're going to be monitoring this thing probably all summer. So there'll be people out here checking on it, making sure everything is still contained, and you know the fire staff that Matt has working for him, they're professionals, and they will know what the standards are for this containment and how far in these crews mopped up. So while there's not as many vehicles going up and down or helicopters overhead or whatever, we're still going to be out here looking at it. So just want you guys to know that. And then the other thing is what we can offer. You know, last year during the Any Creek fire, I could see smoke from my house, and I hadn't Firewise in my house, and I was looking at it and I was like, I got to get on this. So I brought some materials out. So there's a few on the table over here. There's some cards and there's some pamphlets. And if you just want to, if you're interested in maybe taking a look at your home, and what improvements could be made in terms of clearing vegetation, maybe putting wood piles or other flammable things a little further away from the structure. The information's in the pamphlet, and there's also some cards that have this website on it where you can get the same information. Additionally, we have a stewardship forester in the office that will come out to your house and help you walk through an assessment of your home if you're interested in that. And that's, no charge. So if you are interested, get a hold of Matt's office, and he can at least point you in the right direction. It's 451-2601, Fairbanks area office, and then they can kind of help you out. But I think that's most of what I have. I want to thank you all for coming here tonight and hearing us out. So appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. The firefighters say that they're really pleased when they come up a driveway and they look around the yard and they can tell the people who have been reading the Firewise and participating in the program. It really makes a difference for the job that they do when they show up there. If you struggle getting that information, you can contact us at the Fire Information Office and we can help get that to you also. And hear from the borough, Brad Folsom.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Brad Paulson. I'm currently the Acting Director for Emergency Operations for the borough. I've been doing fire and EMS in the area since about 1986, and along with Ed, I was here in 2004 on top of that real on an engine, and it was quite a scene, and we're glad we don't see quite that big a scene this year so far, but we're very early in the season. What I want to really talk about is opting into our rave alerting system in the borough. We have reverse 911, but we don't have a lot of people that have landlines anymore. So this rave system, and I brought some pamphlets for it, and down on the sign down there's a QR code and a QR code on these pamphlets, which I'll hand out. Compliments of the QR code to Lieutenant Roberts, who's got them on the back of his business cards. Like, hey, we should do this. So shout out to ASC on that one. But what the rave alerting system does, every year we put out on our website and social media for the borough a way to get information on Alaska wildfires, specifically in Fairbanks. And this year, if you send a text to 226787, you'll get subscribed to that list. But what I'd like to give just about everyone before we leave today is how to get the rave alerts for your area and for the Fairbanks North Star Borough. And that could be after an earthquake, or we have missing children, or a wildland fire, or any other significant event. This is the system that you can subscribe to that we at Emergency Management will put out the most accurate information, evacuation information, and alerts if you need to do something as far as evacuate an area. So getting into this system, you will see things that come out that will say FNSB information, which is information like we put out about this fire. Those of you that maybe subscribe to it, what's happening with the fire, when the Type 2 team was coming in, watch for aircraft, all those types of things. But we also have things when we talk about ready, set, go for evacuations. Everyone should be in ready state all the time in Alaska in the summer because we never know where the fires are going to happen, where the lightning strikes, or where somebody has a mishap with a campfire or a debris burn pile or something that escapes. So everyone should always be in the ready state. Okay, the next state is set, and that should be, you should have stuff packed up and ready to go at a moment's notice. If you're in a dangerous area or an area where we believe you maybe put it in danger in a time frame of normally 3 to 5 days, it could be 2 hours sometimes depending on what the incident is. And then the go section is you need to evacuate, and we will give you information on where we're rallying you to, points of contact, how to contact you, how many people in your household, all those types of things. If you noticed when the fire first started, you'll see our emergency operations vehicles, what else coming in. I've talked to some of you personally, interface with the Fairbanks area people to look at how many structures we had, how many people we have, how would we move them. When the Type 2 incident management team got here, they bring an abundance of resources to be able to input into that evacuation plan. Those initial plans that we put together are kind of hasty plans, and normally if we have 2 or 3 days, we can put a decent plan together, help support the team and the managers of the team with our GIS specialists and our addressing specialists, so we can look at the impact to the community that may be affected, maybe a wildfire, earthquake, or any other type of disaster that's happening. So getting subscribed to this rave alert system is a critical component for us to get credible, vetted information to you Also, the Fairbanks North Star Borough's Emergency Operations Facebook page and our website should all have the exact same information on it. So if you follow us, it's going to be official information that's been vetted by the governmental agency, not by somebody that says, and you probably saw them on this fire, everyone in Haystack needs to get out, they're going to lose the whole subdivision. We saw that all the time, and we spent a lot of time trying to put out current information and correct information and try to instill a little bit of peace of mind in the people when some folks put things totally out of perspective. So with that, I thank you for being here tonight. I thank you. You guys are used to wildland fires and fire country. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Please take one of these informational pamphlets from me. The information is also on the signboard down there. It's got a nice QR code on it. Point your camera at it, boom, hit the website, subscribe, and you'll get the most current information from your borough. Thank you very much. I'll be here for any questions.
All right, that's it for presentations, so we can start taking some questions. I really don't have a functionable mic to go out into the crowd, so if you can get a question to where I can hear it, then I'll repeat it, and we'll find our subject matter expert out here to answer it for you.
I have a question.
Yes, go right ahead.
I was watching one of the presentations online, and they were talking about the fires burning down like a foot down into the root mat, and then there's like saw lines and hoses. How exactly do they put if it's burning down a foot? How do they fight that fire? How do they put it out?
Well, they're Dustin, you can tell them how to fight fire.
Go up there,
I'm just an info guy.
Yeah, that's a good question. So the organic matter, I guess you could call it, right, Graham? It's been building up for years. So what we do is the firefighters go out along the control lines, and they grid, and they'll find a hot spot. Essentially, they'll dig all that out, and then just start mixing it in with water until they feel around that edge of that hot spot until it's cold. And that's one of the struggles here in Alaska. They just keep burning down deeper and deeper, and then they'll find a root system. They just kind of follow that root system and keep burning, and then all of a sudden it pops out on the other side of the control line, and we're off to the races. It'll get under some black spruce and start an ignition. So that's why we're out there doing our due diligence to make sure this fire is very secured and mopped up 100, 200, 300 feet in as those firefighters see that need it.
From that green black edge right here, they're working, making a wide swath around there, 100, 200 feet in, and it's touching all of that ground and looking for all of those hot spots. Just like you had put out a campfire, churning it with water and stirring it up. That's what these guys are doing. And the deeper it burns, that's just that much more work when fires like this burn so deep. Another question? Yes.
The shape of this fire is super unique. My question is twofold. Where did it start? And one of your guys was on was over at my house earlier, and he was saying that it pretty much followed the black spruce lines. So given that, if it did get uncontained and jump underneath and pop up again, where could you expect, in what direction could you expect it to? Any chance? Analyst guy?
I'll answer the first part of it and then hand it over to Graham, but to my best knowledge, the ignition source was somewhere over in here.
That's my understanding, yes.
So yes, it followed the black spruce. I think Graham will talk to this a little bit better. So it made a push up, the wind switched direction, and it just followed the black spruce. This is all hardwoods. The hardwoods help. So this is why we're getting into this area in the upcoming days. The hardwoods we're holding, we wanted to get the areas of the black spruce mopped up. You'll see where it kind of, the old fuels break you guys are aware of. It did its job for the most part. It kind of pooched out right here, but they got around it fairly fast, kind of followed it, and then you kind of had the old frost burn from, can't remember the year.
98.
98, and it bumped that burn, and it kind of just held right there for us until we could get the dozer line around it. So fuels treatments do work here in Alaska.
And so the black spruce was outside of that prescribed burn area from 98, and what had grown back in that old burned area was not black spruce and was not as susceptible to fire coming out in there. Crews were in the green, gridding the green, looking for spots in the green. And what did they find out here in the burned area? 30, 35
They found
spots?
about 30, 35 spots out there in the grass component, and they're all cold and out. And as we progress on this fire, we've got new technology. We're going to bring a drone out that's got a very nice IR camera. We're going to fly as much of it as we can to make sure there's no other hot spots out there that we're not aware of. And then another interesting thing that happened on this fire likes to run uphill, right? Well, it made a little push coming down and spotted across Caribou Creek right in here, which made, we got a helicopter on it immediately. But our main concern was it was going to run right up towards Haystack Mountain subdivision. That's the reason that we're putting our most emphasis right here on this fire right now. Like I said, get this mopped up and secure. We're not scared of spotting coming up in the next coming days, like Joel said, with the hotter, drier, and windier weather. So.
Good?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this area more or less susceptible to lightning strikes where it's already burned?
So, you know, my experience, so when they get in the old burns, the lightning getting in the old burn, yes, it will start a fire, but you're not going to see the fast moving spread, I guess you could say. It's been burned, you have to deaden down, more of a tundra component. The organic layer's been burned once, so it's going to be a slower moving fire.
Anybody else? Oh, surely somebody has to have a question. Yes, sir.
What's the chance of that burning back on itself or just taking care of itself?
This part?
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to answer that question with the upcoming days and the weather.
Hardwoods, right? Graham,
It's hardwoods.
Here, I got it.
Okay.
Other than my other job as an IC, I'm actually an ops chief too. So let's back up a little bit to like just the printer and stuff like that. So let's talk about resources we have out there. So we have hot shot crews that are Type 1 crew, hand crews that are out there. These are our most elite hand crews, right? 20-person crews, well trained. And we also have Type 2IA crews. So when they say go and direct along the edge, you heard the dozer line, right? We all see what dozer line looks like, but when you talk about hand line too, they're cutting that with chainsaws, they're moving the fuel out the way, they're bringing hose with them, and they're digging up the hot spots where they're mopping. When we say mop up, that's the P tool, mixing it with the organics and water and pushing it in 200 feet. And they did that all the way around this. You know, every time I brief in a map and I talk to these guys, it's easy when you're pointing here, but if you look at the lines, that's pretty steep country in there, right? It's tough work, it's hard work, and those guys are well trained in that, in the aviation aspect, the operations, remote camping, setting up camping, you know, feeding themselves and all that stuff. Now going back to your question of the possibility of if another start in there when it's burned is likely, low. Okay. So, and then also, you know, we're going to be here for 3 or 4 days. I mean, we don't anticipate this thing coming out of here. We're going to try to put this thing to bed. Now, up in the hardwoods, what happens is our folks who are out there today, down here, the tundra is pretty wet from the rain that came through already. And that's a good thing. That's why this thing never moved. Now we got folks going around there putting it out. All the effort was putting in black spruce because the tundra burns and burns down deep, and they're mopping that stuff. When we say mop it up, get in there and dig it out and put it out. Once it hits the hardwoods, it doesn't have, it's a leafy material, and what happens when that storm came over, it put a bunch of half-inch of rain right on top of it. So a lot of that's going to be pretty much out. So what they're going to do is they're going to walk through that thing and make sure there's no fire in there and put it out. And it's going to be less intense than going around the heavy fuels down here where they have to cut it out with chainsaws and put in hand lines and bring hose and all that stuff. So, any other questions?
I got a question.
Yep.
This might be a slight bit off topic. Is there going to be a bunch of firewood for harvesting up there come winter?
Well, I'm going to lean
Like all
towards
those
my
down
forester.
trees and stuff for fuel? Or am I going to get locked up for that?
That's a good question.
So
What does that say?
this green line here is the boundary of the research area. So I would not put that into a permit, a firewood permit, but there's lots of places where you can get firewood. The university has a lot of interests out here, you know, and I understand, you know, if there's stuff that's already down, then
That's what I'm talking about, is the down stuff.
yeah, it still is a university. It's a university managed land, and I would want to defer to them. But I have a feeling that they
It
would
wouldn't be
not.
beneficial for future fires to have it gone? That would be.
Well, that's I'm not a fire behavior analyst, but I think that that would be the heavier fuel that would not be as susceptible to ignition. Well, I mean, we have lots of places that we have firewood cutting permits and
Dropping out and everything else.
yeah. So if you're interested in firewood, I would want to punch it a different direction. What's that?
I said height.
Yes, sir.
I have just a general question. When the helicopters are slinging water from the pond, how many gallons are in one load?
Most of them are
Bambi buckets.
pardon me?
He's talking about the Bambi buckets. What's the capacity of the Bambi
Depending on the size of the helicopter, 300 gallons.
Air and EMS
Not really,
frequency that black team uses.
It's programmed in my radio. I have no idea. It's like remembering a phone number anymore, and it's on your auto dial.
Well, that was addressing it again, actually.
Oh, so that's how the frequencies work is, at NISC, they got a bank of, frequencies for our channels. We got command channels.
Here, Dustin, so these people back there can hear you.
Just stay up there, Dustin.
And their channels, so, when we get a fire like this, our communications folks that work for us call up NISC, they give us a list of frequencies, and they assign them to the fire.
Is it encrypted or is it just the analog?
That's right.
From my knowledge, you know, that's not my expertise. I'm not a communications guy. But like I said, they just assign them to us,
More sensitive.
and then we plug them into our radios and go.
The local team, when they had it, I was hearing it on the scanner, but when y'all took over, it was completely silent, other than power stuff on the air band.
Okay.
And I know you were directing air traffic. I was wondering where and how you're doing it.
Yeah, so the local Department of Forestry, they've got their own set of channels that they have that you were hearing. Then when the team comes in, they bring their own bank of
Is it outside of the normal fire and EMS and air band?
No, it's the same frequency. Well, no, it's just different frequencies that we're using.
Same bandwidth.
Same
just
bandwidth,
different frequencies.
different frequencies.
Sky.
Just to add to that, answer your question too, so when we come into an area, the intent for us to be here is to take the workload off the area, right? So the initial attack folks, there's so many of those folks that are out there, they're catching fires all, you know, west of here. There's a bunch of small fires you may not see on the news and stuff like that. So when we travel into an area, we bring all our gear with us to be able to take over the incident and take the workload off the local government and forestry, so they can get back to chasing the small fires so they don't get bigger. Any other questions?
Well,
All right, we're going to hang out here and take questions on the side.
all right. Thank you, people, for coming out.